Welcome to the Deep Dive. You're joining us today because, well, you're keen to quickly get your head around the complex tech shaping our future, right? And frankly, what could be more compelling, maybe even a bit unsettling, than the idea of human enhancement?
Exactly. It's a huge topic.
So our mission in this deep dive is basically to pull out the core knowledge from the science of the impossible, what's next for humanity. We're focusing on episode 8 about genetic engineering and episode 14, which looks at the ethics.
Another picture stuff.
Yeah, the ethics around enhancement generally. We want to give you a clear, insightful, hopefully even entertaining understanding of how science is, approaching this whole idea of modifying and improving human capabilities.
Precisely. And I think as we dive in, it's really important to first sort of pin down what we mean by human enhancement, at least scientifically.
Yep.
Think of it like a spectrum. On one end, you've got therapeutic enhancements. So interventions aimed at restoring normal function.
Like fixing something that's broken.
Yeah, exactly. Gene therapy to correct a disease, maybe a prosthetic limb, replacing one that was lost, that kind of thing.
Right.
But then on the other end, you have what we might call radical enhancements. These go, well, beyond the typical range of human abilities.
Oh, okay. So that's where it gets really sci-fi almost.
That's where we start thinking about tech that could make us significantly stronger or mentally sharper or even, dramatically boost our lifespan compared to current biological limits.
Okay, so we're talking about moving beyond just fixing what's broken to actually maybe upgrading the human machine.
That's a good way to put it, upgrading.
And the toolbox for this seems pretty extensive, doesn't it? We've got gene editing, you mentioned CRISPR earlier.
Yep, CRISPR-Cas9.
Neural implants connecting to our brains, advanced prosthetics, some look incredible, already brain-machine interfaces, blurring thought and action. And even this idea of nanotechnology, working at a microscopic level. It's a lot.
It is a lot. Where should we start? Maybe with the genetics.
Yeah, let's dig into the science first. How might we actually enhance ourselves, starting with genetics?
Absolutely. And the foundation for so much of this conversation really lies in genetic engineering, the intentional modification of our DNA.
Right, our basic blueprint.
Exactly. At its heart, the goal is to alter those genetic instructions that govern our biology to achieve, well, specific outcomes.
Now, CRISPR-Cas9 is the technology that's really shaken things up in this field, hasn't it? It gets described as incredibly precise.
That's right. CRISPR-Cas9 represents a massive leap forward. Its precision is remarkable. Think of it like a highly skilled surgeon, but operating at the molecular level.
Wow. Okay.
So CRISPR systems use this guide RNA molecule to direct an enzyme, the Cas9 enzyme, the molecular scissors, to a very specific spot on the DNA.
Got it.
This lets scientists make incredibly accurate cuts. They can remove, add, or change specific genes with way more accuracy and efficiency than older methods.
So much more control.
Yeah, and that level of precision just opens up this huge range of potential applications way beyond just treating illnesses.
So this isn't quite like the older genetic modification we heard about, maybe with crops or something. There's a real difference in the control level.
Exactly. Traditional genetic modification often involved, inserting foreign DNA into an organism, but kind of randomly. It wasn't always easy to target specific genes accurately.
A bit hit and miss.
A bit, yeah. Gene editing, especially with CRISPR, allows for much more targeted, deliberate changes within the existing genetic code. Instead of just adding something new, you're making precise tweaks to the organism's own blueprint.
Okay.
And yeah, while the first applications were mostly in plants and animals agriculture, research the potential for human applications has always been there, stirring up interest and, well, a lot of debate.
And this is where things get really interesting, and maybe where some listeners start to feel a bit uneasy.
Understandably.
We're talking potentially going beyond treating awful diseases like cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, muscular dystrophy, which, that alone is monumental.
Huge. Absolutely huge.
And moving toward this idea of designer babies. Can you unpack what that actually means?
Yeah.
And what are the hurdles scientifically?
Right. Designer babies. The concept comes from the theoretical ability to use gene editing not just for disease correction, but maybe to select for or even enhance certain heritable traits.
Like what kind of traits?
Things like predispositions for higher intelligence, specific physical features, maybe even certain aspects of temperament, if we can figure out the complex gene sets involved.
Which is a big if for many traits.
Oh, a huge if. The genetics of complex traits like intelligence are still really murky, but if we could identify them, the possibility exists, theoretically, to modify them in embryos.
Right.
But it's crucial to say, messing with those complex traits could have totally unforeseen consequences. Still, the science is moving closer to where such things might be technically possible, which forces this big societal discussion.
About intentionally shaping future generations.
Yeah.
It does feel very science fiction.
It does.
So genetics is obviously powerful, a key tool. But it's not the only way we might enhance ourselves, is it? What else is on the horizon?
You're right. Beyond genetics, there are several other really exciting frontiers. Neural implants, for instance.
Brain chips, basically.
Sort of, yeah. Offering potential for direct interaction with the nervous system. Could lead to enhancements in cognitive functions, memory, learning speed, attention, maybe.
Okay, what else?
Advanced prosthetics are evolving incredibly fast. They're going from just replacements to sophisticated biomechanical devices that can even outperform natural limbs. Enhanced strength, dexterity.
Yeah, I've seen some amazing videos.
And then brain-machine interface is another fascinating area. Direct communication between brain and computer.
Controlling things with your thoughts.
Exactly. Controlling robotic limbs, computers, who knows what else. And finally, though it's still early days, nanotechnology.
Tiny machines.
Manipulating matter at the nanoscale. Long-term potential there for incredibly advanced materials, devices operating inside our bodies, enhancing functions at the cellular level. Wild stuff.
It's a staggering list. Okay, let's switch gears slightly. Let's focus on the promise for a moment, the potential upsides. What could all this mean for our health, maybe how long we live?
Well, the implications for health and longevity could be genuinely revolutionary. Imagine a future where we could, say, eliminate the genetic roots of many inherited diseases before birth.
That would be incredible.
Think of the suffering reduced. Then there are technologies targeting aging itself at the cellular level. Could lead to longer, healthier lifespans. Not just more years, but better years.
Right. Quality of life.
Exactly. We might develop enhancements to our immune systems, making us way more resilient to infections, diseases, and think about physical recovery, bouncing back faster and more fully from injuries or illnesses.
So it's about extending health span, not just lifespan.
That's the goal for many researchers, yes. Extending healthy, active living.
That paints a pretty compelling picture. What about our minds, our cognitive abilities? What upgrades might be possible there?
The potential for cognitive enhancement is, well, equally transformative. We could see real breakthroughs in how we learn and retain information.
Better memory, higher IQ.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Improvements in memory, maybe overall intelligence, mental processing speed could be boosted, focus improved. There's even talk of boosting creativity or maybe emotional intelligence, understanding and managing emotions better.
How would that even work?
Various ways, potentially. Neural implants stimulating certain brain areas, maybe gene editing, targeting genes involved in brain development, sophisticated brain-machine interfaces, augmenting our own processing power. These are all avenues being explored.
Wow. And it's not just about brains and staying healthy longer. The physical enhancements sound pretty dramatic too.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about potential for significant boosts in physical strength, maybe through genetic tweaks, enhancing muscle growth, or through advanced exoskeletons or implants.
That's superhuman strength.
Could be. Endurance could be pushed way beyond current limits. Our senses could be augmented. Maybe seeing a wider light spectrum, hearing distant sounds.
Like something out of a comic book.
Kind of. These physical enhancements could have big impacts in lots of field sports, demanding jobs, search and rescue.
It's almost overwhelming to think about. But you also mentioned earlier this idea of using these technologies for social good. Can you give some examples? How could augmentation help tackle bigger challenges?
Certainly. Imagine using cognitive enhancements to speed up scientific research. Finding solutions faster for things like climate change, or new energy sources, or new disease treatment.
Okay, accelerating innovation.
Right. Physical enhancements could let people do demanding jobs more effectively, maybe more safely, boosting productivity. And think about accessibility. Brain-machine interfaces could revolutionize life for people with disabilities.
New ways to communicate, interact.
Exactly. Improving access to education, healthcare, letting people participate more fully in society. There's real potential for good.
So the potential benefits are clearly significant. Huge, even. But we have to talk about the downsides, the really complex questions these things raise.
We absolutely do.
And one of the most immediate ones feels like access and fairness. If or when these enhancements become available, who actually gets them?
A fundamental question. It needs very careful thought. If these powerful technologies arrive, there's a serious risk they could initially only be available to, the wealthy.
The rich get richer and maybe stronger, smarter.
That's the concern. It could massively widen existing societal inequalities. You could end up with an enhanced elite having huge advantages everywhere: education, careers, social standing, maybe even political influence.
Creating a kind of two-tiered society.
That's the fear, yes. The potential for that kind of division, with profound impacts on social justice and equality, it's a really serious concern.
It really does bring up this image of a future where your biology is even more tied to your bank balance. And then there are the really big kind of philosophical questions. If we start making fundamental changes to what it means to be human, biologically, at what point do we cross some kind of line?
Exactly. As we gain this power to significantly alter our biology, our cognitive capacities, we have to grapple with what defines our humanity.
Are we still?
That's the question. If we drastically change our physical and mental traits, do we risk losing something essential? Would enhanced individuals still share the same core values, empathy, experiences as unenhanced humans?
Or could we diverge, become something else?
Or could these enhancements lead to a divergence? Maybe even the emergence of something we wouldn't really recognize as fundamentally human anymore. It forces us to look at our deepest assumptions about identity, our place in the world.
It's almost like taking evolution into our own hands, consciously engineering it.
In a way, yes.
And what about just unforeseen consequences? When we start tinkering with something as incredibly complex as human biology, what could go wrong that we can't even predict?
That's a huge risk. The sheer complexity means making big changes could have unintended, maybe far-reaching consequences. Changes to genetics, for example.
That would have knock-on effects?
Right. Unforeseen health problems might not show up for years or even generations. Enhancements in one area might cause problems elsewhere that we just don't understand yet.
Like a domino effect.
Could be. There's also the risk of creating new kinds of inequality based on who has which enhancement or what level. And, as we touched on, the worry that cognitive enhancements could lead to unpredictable, maybe even harmful behaviors.
In super intelligent people.
Potentially. We just need to be incredibly cautious and aware of the potential for unintended outcomes when we're messing with such fundamental biology.
So given all this, the amazing potential, the serious risks, how do we even start thinking about drawing lines? Are some enhancements maybe more okay than others?
That's a crucial part of the ethical debate right now. Many people find therapeutic enhancements, fixing disease, restoring function, generally more ethically straightforward, more acceptable.
Okay, the fixing part.
Yes. But when you move into enhancements that go beyond normal human capabilities, the ethics get much, much muddier.
Right.
There's often a distinction people make between physical and cognitive enhancements. Some argue that changing fundamental aspects of our minds, our consciousness, raises deeper ethical questions than, say, making someone physically stronger.
Interesting distinction.
And then, of course, we circle back to the really thorny issue of designer babies, genetic modifications aimed at influencing traits in future generations. Many see that as crossing a major ethical line because the consequences could be so long-term, so irreversible.
And what about consent? That seems incredibly tricky, especially when you're talking about making changes to embryos or to children.
That's a critical point, absolutely. Getting truly informed consent for enhancements, particularly those done at the embryonic stage or those affecting someone their whole life without their initial okay, it poses huge ethical challenges.
How can an embryo consent?
Exactly. Or a child born with modifications they didn't choose. It raises fundamental questions about autonomy, the rights of future generations. Even for enhancements chosen later in life, you have to consider societal pressure.
Like feeling you have to get enhanced to keep up.
Precisely. Would people feel compelled to enhance just to stay competitive or to avoid being left behind? Is that truly free consent?
So many layers to this. We've covered a huge amount of ground in this deep dive. We've looked at the science, the incredible potential, and these really significant ethical knots. What are the main things you hope our listener takes away?
I think maybe the most important thing is that these technologies for human enhancement, they're advancing really fast. They hold genuinely tremendous promise for improving human health, our capabilities.
Great. The upside is undeniable.
But these advances are completely tangled up with complex ethical and societal implications that we absolutely have to address proactively, not after the fact.
We need to talk about it now.
Yes. It's crucial to have a thoughtful, ongoing dialogue about the benefits, the risks, who gets access, and what principles should guide how we develop and use this stuff. We need to aim for a future that's both innovative and equitable.
Absolutely. It really feels like we're standing on the edge of a future that could look radically different from today.
It could indeed.
So for you, our listener, as you think about all this, considering the